Well, hey, how you doing today? Today we're going to be talking about the 10 Mahavidyas. I made a little presentation for this. I also decided to put some Howdy mantra in the background because I thought, why not? It's nice and soothing and relaxing. And yeah, let's go straight into it. So technically it's not always 10 Mahavidyas, and you can find traditions where it's a little bit different. I think I've seen 12 Mahavidyas. I've seen a couple of others, and there's not necessarily like a super hardcore strict structure to this, but 10 Mahavidyas is, from what I've seen, the most common, and I've included the goddesses which I have seen as the most common. There are a couple others that might come out of the blue occasionally, but these are the ones we're sticking with today. And I just finished a book, or well, I'm not finished quite yet, but Tantric Visions of the Divine Feminine. So if you want a good book about these ladies, these wonderful, wonderful goddesses, that's a great book to go for. I would highly recommend it. But you can see here already that they have a wide variety of appearances. And part of the point of the Mahavidyas is the idea of representing all different kinds of things that the goddess, the greater goddess, can represent. Devi herself, you know? And these are different forms that Devi can take. These are different forms that people can worship Devi in. Some of them are kind of scary. Some of them are very polite. Some of them are... It's all over the place, really. And we're going to get into it a little bit. But one of the first ones we're going to go over is one of the most commonly included is Goddess Kali. Mother Kali. My favorite, of course. I run up to her and hug her every day, and I pray to her many, many times. But depending on who exactly is telling the origin story of the Mahavidyas, she might be like the lead, quote-unquote, the first one. There's a story in which Shiva wants to get away from the goddess for a little bit, but everywhere he turns there's another form of her, and like Kali is like the main form, and then it goes down like Goddess Tara, and all these others. Mahakali is kind of interesting in that depending on where you like look at her in terms of like myth and things like that, she is kind of all over the place. She's often depicted with like very dark skin, like sometimes she's like pitch black or like a darker blue, and it kind of depends on what you've seen of her. In more traditional imagery, she tends to have like her tongue out, and usually what you'll see is that one of her left arms has the severed head here that she'll be lifting, and another one of her arms will have the sword in it. And she also usually has a garland of skulls. I like this one. It is actually a combination of Krishna and Kali, and those happen to be two of the forms of God that I spend the most time on, so I rather like that. And I think that the traditional is very interesting, and that it has like kind of a scary aspect to it. But I also like these. These are kind of, I think they're both from Western practitioners. I'm not sure. This one is from like a oracle deck thing that I have that has some really, really pretty art of Ma Kali. I might like post a link to it in the thing below, the description. But here's one of her. Usually though, it is a garland of skulls and a girdle made of severed arms, and you could, you know, take a lot of the different forms of this. Like, okay, for instance, sometimes people ask, well, why is she scary? Well, one of my favorite answers to that is, well, nobody wants a mamby-pamby mother. She's supposed to protect you, and she's supposed to help you. And there's a lot of symbolism in the images used, and even though this one is non-traditional, there's still a lot of that same symbolism. I can still go over a little bit of it. Usually, people will say, for instance, like, the garland of arms around her, the girdle of arms, could be a representation of her cutting off the effects of karma, because you know, you use your arms to do actions that, you know, help you build karma in one way or another, or, you know, kind of actually bind you to your karma in one way or another. And her sword is sometimes said to sever men from their ego, men and women, I should say, men in like the sense of humans, man, human. But you know, like, humanity, it's to separate souls from their egos and things like that. Sometimes, most of her depictions, she only has 4 arms. I thought this one was kind of interesting because she actually has 6 here. But it's also because she's also playing the little flute there. Isn't that neat? And she's often depicted as a fierce goddess. But something that's very interesting is, especially in Bengal, and you can see this among like the Ramakrishna type crowd, she's often depicted as a loving, divine mother. And I tend to put most of my worship on her. But yeah, she's very, very interesting. And I think you can do a lot of good work with her. I have seen someone like Sadhguru say that, oh, well, Kali is too powerful. Let me just say that I no, don't listen to that man. That man's silly. Silly man, all very silly man. Instead, listen to the weird cat on the internet. That's better, right? Right. Anyway, let's go on to the next one. This is Tara Devi, Goddess Tara. Something that's very interesting about Goddess Tara is that she's actually a part of 2 traditions, more or less. She is part of, you can see on the left here, this is like a Hindu tantric version of Tara. And on the right, this is a tantric and a Buddhist scent of Goddess Tara. And she can have this really kind, in the Buddhist sense, in the Vajrayana sense, she's often depicted as like very kind, and like the green Tara mantra is like supposed to give you peace and things like that. Goddess Tara in the Hindu tradition is a little different, and you can see that she looks kind of similar to Kali, but not exactly. And then, of course, this is slightly more traditional artwork. Here she is, walking on my guy, my favorite guy. There are some myths that say that like the sun itself originates from her, that she's like the goddess of all like energy. She manifested as the mother of Shiva after the incident of the Samudra Mantha to heal him as her child. Tara is of light blue complexion. She has disheveled hair, wearing a crown decorated with the digit of the half moon. There's a lot of interesting symbology here as well. It's very similar to Kali in a lot of ways, but if you really pay attention, you can see the differences. For one, she has more than one sword. She has kind of like a pot belly type thing going on. She's a little bit thicker in the middle there, and she tends to be more light blue. Now, Kali has a lot of art where she is light blue as well, but in like very traditional art, she tends to be like pitch black. But you can see that there's a big difference between these traditions. However, something that's interesting is that Goddess Tara in the Vajrayana tradition can also be kind of a wrathful deity occasionally. Or can be kind of scary, I guess. Her left foot rests on the laying down Shiva. This is also something that you'll often see with Kali, is that she's going to be standing on Lord Shiva. But something that's also interesting here is that you can also see it in the Tara Devi. It's very interesting to me to see these tantric traditions from Buddhism and Hinduism kind of mixed together in a lot of ways. And you can actually kind of worship her in both aspects. And I have done that before. I have a Tara statue over there, but it's a Buddhist Tara statue. I have found that although I wanted to get statues of all 10 of the Mahavidyas, Buddhist Tara is way easier to get than Hindu Tara for some reason. Okay. Goddess Tripura Sundari. This one is one I know a little bit less about, but she's actually still pretty interesting if you just kind of look at her. You can tell, and just go back for a second, like Kali, even like in the nicer image here, she still has the sword and like the severed head. Tara Devi, she has like all kinds of scary stuff going on, but this goddess here, Tripura, she is like just much more traditionally nice, and you can see that she has like lots of gold stuff going on here. She's sometimes referred to as the beauty of the 3 worlds, or the tantric Parvati, or Muksha Mukta. She is the ruler of, this is Manidippa, the eternal abode of the goddess. She thought she is seen with a molten gold complexion, So in some more traditional art, she is like actually golden herself, and not just wearing gold. Like her skin looks golden. And she has 3 placid eyes. So normally she has the 2 eyes here, but also a 3rd eye open. She's normally seated on a throne, and you can see here that she is seated. She usually has some lotuses in her hands and things like that. She's associated with a lot of different things. I've seen her associated with getting people closer to Lord Shiva, but I haven't seen her worshipped too crazy much. Now, this could just be my own ignorance, but I've seen her worshipped too much on our own. She is also, but like, as you can see, she's clearly one of the ones that is more kind of like what we might consider traditional. Oops. I did have a little bit of notes written on the lady. She's the eternal beauty. Her name means eternal beauty. Beauty of the 3 worlds. Portrays her as she shines like the bright radiance of the rising sun. Sadasi means the one who is 16 years, and in the tantric form of Tripura. Onari. Meditating on her yanta while chanting the Mahavidyas, Bij mantra of the goddess, the worshipper is blessed with the power to attract and enchant the world. I thought this is kind of interesting. She's also connected to the planet Mercury, which I thought was kind of interesting. So what I've noticed in a lot of these tantric traditions is that people will kind of worship different goddesses, often to gain like magical power or things like that. But I think you should worship them just because they're cool and loving and give you many blessings of love. But we're going to move on to the next goddess, and goddess Bhuvaneshwari. There we go, I got it. I believed in me, and you should have too, even though sometimes I say these names and I have a hard time. But she's kind of interesting. She represents like Devi as like the world mother, as like the one who comprises all 14 lokas of the cosmos. Basically, all the cosmos is comprised of this lady here. She's often of fair complexion, sometimes considered golden complexion, with 3 content eyes, as well as a calm mane. She wears red and yellow garments decorated with ornaments on her limbs, and has 4 hands. 2 of her 4 hands hold a goat and a noose, while her other hands are open. She is seated on the divine celestial throne. It is kind of interesting because you can see that she does have a noose here in her hand. I've seen people describe this as anything from like she's gonna hang your ego to, like, she'll use the noose to like rise you up. It's very interesting, the amount of like symbolism that is in this kind of stuff, right? And the other thing that I thought was kind of interesting was, where was it? She bestows knowledge similar to the goddess Saraswati. Astrologically, she is in charge of the planet Moon, which I find is a very kind of funny phrase, and is about the mind. Many blessings include blissful married life, peace of mind, focus, sound sleep, etc. So basically, this form is worship to give you like focus and like sound sleep, all kinds of things. Of course, I would argue that you can worship any of these forms in any way, as they are all part of the Divine Mother. She is... Where is it? Oh, she also embodies the dynamic world in all of us. So she's a very interesting figure, and I think it's kind of interesting, especially once again as we go through these, to see how different each one is. Like, we're trying to represent like the whole of the Divine Mother here by going through each with all these different goddesses that are all considered part of the same goddess, and show you kind of like the craziness going on there. By this is sometimes just called the fierce goddess. I rather like this image here on the left. I thought it was kind of an interesting one, and you can see here she's seated on a severed corpse. Of course, the severed head. She's holding up the severed head. Got a cool sword. Got a cool face. She's also often represented with Bhairav V being Lord Shiva. These two are often seen together, so I thought it would be appropriate to have at least one image of her next to Lord Shiva. And this is kind of an interesting depiction of Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva, I don't normally think has like black skin in depictions. Normally he's like blue or dark blue, or I've sometimes seen him in green and or just like regular flesh color. So that's kind of interesting. But she's considered the fierce goddess. She has furious eyes and disheveled hair. Her hair is matted, tied up in a bun, decorated by the crescent moon as well as adorning horns, one sticking out from each side. She has two protruding tusks from the ends of her bloody mouth. She wears red and blue garments and is adorned with a garland of skulls around her neck. She also wears a belt decorated with severed hands and bones. She is also decked with snakes and serpents too as her ornamentation. So that's kind of interesting, is that like if you look, you can you can't really see any horns on here, but you can see that this is clearly the same god. She has the red skin and all that. She has the garland of severed heads here. This is kind of more interesting, I think, as an image, just because it has the horns, the moon, the whole shebang-a-bang. But this one, it's like they were trying to make her look a little bit prettier almost. And of course, goddess is always beautiful in any form that she's in. So I don't know why they had to do that, but whatever. She's very interesting. She's often, like I said, seen along with Lord Shiva. Ma literally translates to the terrible one or terror. She wears red clothing, which is adorned with a garland of severed heads and skulls. And one of the things that's interesting, as I was doing research on this goddess in particular, is that she is sometimes just red. I think the most often I've seen her depiction, she is just red, and like, you know, mostly nude except for the skulls. However, occasionally I have seen her with like just clothes on, and it's kind of interesting how it kind of works like that. She sometimes described as overseers or proceeds within the three male deities who might be typically associated with creation. Bhairava Devi is thought to be different from all the gods and even surpassing them. The emphasis is quite common in a lot of hymns, stories of the goddess, especially of the Mahavidyas. Her image shows her with 4 hands. You know, she's got 4 hands. Cool there. I would say that there's not anything too particularly interesting about her surpassing the gods in this. This is like kind of very strong in the Shakta tradition of goddesses just straight up surpassing the gods around them. And of course, I would argue that ultimately these are all part of the same deity and all part of the mother goddess, Mother Kali, Mother Divine Mother, whatever you want to call it. So I mean, surpass is not even, I don't know if I would even say it's the correct word, but you know, she's very interesting. People tend to worship her for like strength and for wisdom. I mean, we pretty much worship all these goddesses for wisdom in some way or another. But she's pretty interesting. I definitely recommend checking her out if you want to. This is probably one of the goddesses with the most interesting image to me. So this is Chinchamasa, goddess Chinchamasa. She is, as you can see here, depicted as having a severed head and having 3 things of blood flowing out of her head that go to her 2 little friends here, as well as into her own mouth. Self-deprecated goddess, she chopped off her own head in order to satisfy Jaya and Vijaya, metaphors of Rajas and Tamas. And she has a red complexion and body by a frightful appearance. She has disheveled hair, forearms, all that good stuff. One thing I do find interesting is that she's often depicted as standing on top of a couple in the middle of coitus. So people will be having the sexes, and then she just shows up with her severed head and just like, I'm gonna stand on you now. Very good. But there's all kinds of different things going on there. She's also wearing a garland of skulls or severed heads. One of the things I find kind of interesting about this goddess in particular is that she may be worshipped by a native who has a weak placement of Rahu in the birth chart, and to get her protection from any ill effects of Rahu. She is, I notice, associated with a lot of superstition. Now, all of these goddesses have various levels of superstition about them. But this one feels very interesting because she's drinking of her own blood. Where is it? The astrological planet Rahu, a malefic planet by nature, is controlled by Chinchamasa. So this like kind of goes into like astrology and stuff like that. Like she controls this like negative planet, and if you worship her, she's supposed to be able to like if your like birth chart coincides with this planet, she'll like relieve you of a lot of that stuff. Her teachings are deep and mostly invoked in Tantra Sadhana. I've also seen a lot of things about how she can like relieve you of your stress and worries, relieve you of your attachment. Like she can sever your head of attachment from the world, which I think is pretty interesting. There's also this little invocation here at the bottom of this one website I found. I invoke goddess Chinchamasa, who is the lighting force of power behind the Lord who wields the Vajra, the weapon of the god Indra, king of heaven. You are the one who fulfills the desires and saves from all sorts of worries. Of course, something that's kind of interesting is that pretty much any of these goddesses, if you want to, you can worship them to like protect yourself or to like gain an upper hand or things like that. Goddess Davati. This one is also very interesting. She's often referred to simply as the widow goddess. Davati is a smoky dark brown complexion. Her skin is wrinkled, her mouth is dry, some of her teeth have fallen out, her long disheveled hair is gray, her eyes are seen as bloodshot. She's a frightening mind, which is seen as a combined source of anger, misery, fear, exhaustion, restlessness, constant hunger, and thirst. She wears white clothes, donned in the attire of a widow. She is sitting in the horseless chariot as her vehicle of transportation. On top of the chariot, there is an emblem of a crow as well as a banner. She has two trembling hands. Her one hand bestows boons or knowledge, and the other one holds a winnowing basket. So, you know, like kind of despite her like fearsome appearance or her kind of scary appearance here, this one is like less scary. This one just looks more kind of like a regular lady. But this one here is really kind of invokes the image a little bit more, I think. But she can bestow boons and wonderful things like that. Duma very literally just means smoke, and apparently she's usually like a smoky brown. I'm not 100% sure what smoky brown means. Smoky blue I kind of get, but smoky brown I don't 100% know if I've seen. And when I looked at pictures of this goddess, like a lot of these goddesses, her color is all over the place. Like sometimes she is like very dark, sometimes she is very light, sometimes she just looks like a regular lady, other times she looks like scary. She symbolizes the painful, burdensome aspects connected with life. The story of Davati says that she swallowed her husband, Lord Shiva, to appease her hunger. Smoke started emanating from her body as a result of that, and so she's named Davati. Davati means smoke. She is also sometimes regarded as an old form of Kali, wherein Ma Davati represents timeless and unmanifested life forces. The effects of the planet Catte is under her control. There's a lot of astrology stuff that goes along with this, which is kind of interesting. Of course, she has a connection to Goddess Kali. Sometimes people have said that like this is just like the older form of Goddess Kali, like just one of her various forms. I mean, and I would argue that of course they are all part of the same greater form of the goddess. it is interesting to have a goddess that just straight up depicts like the painful, burdensome aspects of life, like this, like having like you know, just like she like this constant hunger and this pain and this like worrisome stuff going on. It's very interesting to see that, and you kind of worship her partially to escape from that, but you also worship her to like understand it and not just escape from it in like the sense of like not having it happen to you, but to like transcend it and go past it. Here's another one. Another invocation. Prayers to the one who creates an illusory smokescreen. In the form of old age and death, may we see beyond the fear of illusions of mortality to truth and immortality. So she's like supposed to represent this kind of scary image of death, but if you like worship her, you can get past that and get closer to immortality. Next goddess. I think this picture goes real hard. There were several that I thought were pretty cool, but like this one I thought was pretty cool just in the sense that she's about to own a demon, and the demon's like, oh, don't like this. Which, you know, understandable, Mr. Demon. You probably shouldn't have messed with her. But, this is, Balam Muki. She is the goddess who paralyzes enemies. Balam Muki has a molten gold complexion and 3 bright eyes, lush black hair, and benign mane. She is seen wearing yellow garments and apparel. She is decked with yellow ornaments on her limbs. Her 2 hands hold a mace or club, and holds the demon Mada Nasura by the tongue to keep him at bay. She is shown seated on either a throne or on the back of a crane. There was like one picture where she was just like riding like a chocobo, but it didn't show her like whacking things, and I thought the whacking things was more interesting. She emits a grim disposition and is heavily intoxicated. Her complexion is completely golden. It's kind of interesting because I'm reading like multiple descriptions that I have kind of put together, and they keep mentioning her yellow dress. Although what's funny is she's wearing partially yellow. She's not wearing entirely yellow in this. Her devotees are protected severely by her, and it is said that anyone trying to cause harm to them will be transfixed to power which she bestows to her devotee. She's associated with the planet Mars and all of its effect. She's the favorite of Tantra Siddhana. It's kind of interesting to see like the various different aspects, and like there's a lot of like these goddesses which are kind of fierce and they're like meant to protect their devotees and things like that, which I think is pretty neat. She is also it's interesting. I found that there were several stories where she is depicted as just straight up intoxicated, like she's just like drinking a ton of wine and then just beating the crap out of a demon, which I mean that's pretty baller. And I also like this picture because there's like the little crane inside here, which to me implies that when she's not riding the crane gets to ride her, and I think that's just fair and very good. I think she has a very interesting image, and there's a lot of very pretty art of her. Let's move on to next goddess. This is Goddess Montangi. This one is sometimes called the Prime Minister of Lalita in Sri Kala systems. Sometimes called the Tantric Saraswati, which is interesting because she's not the only one that was called that. If you remember, it's a little bit, which one was it? No, I'm sorry. Tantric Parvati. And there is also, there's multiple that are sometimes called like Saraswati because they'll play instruments and things like that. It's kind of interesting how that works. Montangi is pictured as an emerald green in complexion, with lush, disheveled black hair, 3 placid eyes, and a calm look on her face. She is seen wearing red garments and apparel, bedecked with various ornaments all over her delicate limbs. She is seated on the royal throne and has 4 hands, 3 of which hold a sword or scimitar, a skull, and a veena, which is that musical instrument she has there. Her one hand bestows boons on her devotees, and yeah, she, just like all of them, will bestow boons on her devotees. Sometimes she's kind of thought to be an outcast. A particular myth related to Montangi touches on the concept of being polluted simply by associating with your Kandalas, or the Untouchables. She is about leadership, the ruler, by worshipping this Mahavidya Devi's yantra, chanting her mantra, wishes of the devotee are fulfilled. Astrology has put her in charge of the effects of the planet sun. I do find it funny that they keep saying, like, a planet sun. But yeah, she is somewhat associated with Untouchables. Of course, here on the Cat Cast, we don't care about your goddamn caste system. I smash into the ground. Smash, smash, smash! With big mallet. I don't care. You're silly billies. Your notions of purity are purely facile, nonsensical. The goddess is all. There can be no pure or impure, and there can be no person that is better than another. There is only love. You fucking silly Billy. But yeah, so that's Montangi. She's pretty cool. And we have the last of the 10. Goddess Kamala Tamika. Goddess Kamala Tamika. I just call her Kamala because I think in most of the things I've seen, she's just called Goddess Kamala. But I saw this one and decided to add it. She has these cool elephants. Look at these elephants. Aren't they very neat? The Lotus God is sometimes called the Tantric Lakshmi. Kamala is of a molten gold complexion. Once again, I keep seeing them say molten gold. I don't think I've seen a single thing that actually, like, for any of these goddesses that actually looks like gold. They almost always look like regular skin color, or maybe like a little bit shiny, but very rarely like actual gold. She has a benevolent expression. That one there on the left is pretty benevolent. The other one looks like she's kind of like sounds, oh man, please, on the other side. She's seen wearing the red and pink garments and apparel bedecked with various ornaments, lotuses all over her limbs. She is seated in a fully bloomed lotus, while with her 4 hands she holds 2 lotuses, while 2 grant her devotees wishes and assures them protection from the fear. From the fear. The fear, not just fear, but the fear. Kamala is typically the most popular and well... okay, wait, that's here. Kamala is the Tantric Lakshmi. Among the many goddesses included in the 10 Mahavidyas, Kamala is typically the most popular and well acknowledged. Now, this one I don't know about because I've seen her acknowledged in some areas. Like, I think I've seen her acknowledged in, what you call it? Like southern India and maybe eastern India. I don't think I've seen her terribly acknowledged to many other places. It is interesting that Kamala Harris is named after this goddess. I thought that was kind of interesting. Because she's not like this goddess at all. Very bad. Very bad name. She needs a better name, like Lamo. Yeah, there you go. But I mean, hey, as long as she respects the goddess, it's fine. Anyway. She's also almost completely auspicious with desirable qualities. Kamala blesses with many things which humans generally seek, such as good luck, luxury, success, name and safety. The planet Venus is under control of her. Something that's also kind of interesting is, depending on your level of understanding, these gods and goddesses can be more or less material. Like the good luck and stuff like that, like that's cool and all, but that's not liberation. I want like moksha, man. I want to get close to God, man. Good luck doesn't just get you close to God, man. Luxuries are kind of like, okay, cool, whatever. It's fine, I guess. But there is an invocation for her as well. I invoke Matangi. Wait, what? That's Goddess Kamala. Why is it? Okay, whatever. I invoke Matangi, the one who destroys the demons by enchanting, first illuminating with true knowledge of inspiration and expression. That's kind of interesting that that's... Okay, that's why, because the secondary website I used for extra notes and stuff for some reason just has the invocation for Montangi also under Kamala. I don't know why that is. I don't think those two are actually connected in any specific way other than both being part of the Mahavidyas. Anyway, so that's the end of the little presentation. I think it's pretty interesting to see like the sheer diversity in the way that God is depicted in the 10 Mahavidyas, and the ways that various people can connect to God. Of course, you can worship all 10 of these as various different aspects of the same deity, or you can worship one of them in particular. I, of course, focus a lot on Goddess Kali. Goddess Kali is my favorite in terms of these incarnations or these images of God. I like her a lot. And, of course, she's also connected with Sri Ramakrishna, which I personally find very cool and good and cool. There's also, this is like a very basic overview for a lot of these. I wanted to just introduce this because I didn't see too many videos on the Mahavidyas on YouTube, and I also think that if you just look a little bit into these ladies and go deeper into them from there, I think it can be very beneficial. Yeah, I do not like that they say bad things about this one because she's associated with the Untouchables, because racism, that's bad. We should praise all goddesses and give big hugs to many, even the ones that get blood all over our clothes or have skulls. Especially the ones who get blood all over our clothes and skulls. Delicious. Tantra. Anyway, I thought that this would be kind of interesting to go over. And like I said, this is not like any in-depth stuff. If you guys happen to watch this and want me to go more in-depth on a particular goddess, or like go more into like the myths and things associated with them, I am cool with that. I would like to do that. Obviously, I talk about Kali a lot. She is my Ishta, so she makes sense for me to talk about her a lot. But I do also occasionally pay respects to Goddess Tara and some of the others here. I find that the ones with the frightful expressions and like images to them, those are my favorites, and I think that those are the most interesting in terms of like worship, and I've gotten the most out of them. I've gotten the most out of worshiping Kali in particular, but I find that like the fearsome expressions can really help you kind of like melt the barriers in your brain about like what is holy and unholy and all that cool stuff. Anyway, I hope that you all have an absolutely wonderful day, and remember that I love you, and that God loves you, and that we all love you, and bye-bye, love you, bye, bye, love you, bye, Goddess love you, bye.